Can you explain Australia's role in ASEAN, the Southeast Asian football organization? And I know very little about this, so please give me the 101 and the viewers the 101, because from my point of view, it seems like Australia, while an active member, doesn't really participate in a lot of the tournaments, such as the AFF Cup that happened most recently. But sometimes it looks like youth teams do participate. Like, what does that look like for Australia?
Yeah. So firstly, I've actually, as a written journalist, done a lot of work on this particular topic, and I would say I'm one of about 3 or 4 people that would actually be like some of the most qualified people to answer this question. So you've come to the right place.
Fantastic.
And I will actually
you
send you. I will send you that article on Twitter a bit later, because I think you'll find it fascinating. Albeit it was written a few years back, so I don't think it's aged as well. But look, ultimately, it comes down to a few things. As someone that is an avid viewer of the AFF Cup, the AFF as an organization only took us on after we actually competed in the East Asian Football Championship, which is the EAFF with Japan, South Korea, so on and so forth. We competed at their Senior Cup in 2013, and then the AFC kind of realized that as far as the geography is concerned, you'd be better off in Southeast Asia. And we looked at like our futsal programs, our youth teams, and thought there's actually like a on par level of competition here. Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand in particular is the 3. Sometimes Singapore, Malaysia come into it every now and then, but that's actually like bang on who you want to be playing against in futsal and at youth tournaments. So we went with that purpose. We're gonna play the futsal and youth tournaments, and we did have a bit of an interest in the senior competitions. At the women's level, we've competed in the senior competition before, and of course the Matildas have won every game 17-0, because of course they have. But at the senior men's level, there actually became a really big problem. The AFF immediately realized that because they're actually so intertwined with ASEAN, the political entity, they want a lot of that unity, and they want the diplomacy of it to really stay within that, because Australia actually isn't a member of ASEAN, the political union, right?
Oh,
the bigger part of it was, yeah. Oh, pretty.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a one of those things that I don't think a lot of people get their heads around when it comes to sub-confederations. I also think that sub-confederations as a concept are unique to Asia because it's so big as well, which is something that's unique in this dynamic. Anyway, I'll get more to the point here. So the AFF basically said to the FA, if your teams compete in this, even if it's like the 23s or the 20s, bearing in mind that this was in 13 and 14 where the dynamic was a little bit different, they're probably going to play our senior teams and beat us and make it not really what we want the tournament to be about. So we're actually going to bar you because you're too good. We're actually going to put legislation in place to say you can't be a part of the tournament. And whilst it was initially a bit disappointing, because I think it would have been really good for our Olympic team or the 20s to kind of get an upper hand, ultimately the opposite kind of ended up going, a certain way, because those teams are beating our 20s and 23s. So if anything, we could send like an A-League 11 there, and we'd love to do it. But there's still a few problems in that it's outside of a FIFA window. And if we were to send an A-League 11 to the tournament, it would basically make the A-League it would make 3 rounds of the A-League just nonsense. We would be playing 17s from, amateur football, basically, coming straight from the national seconds here into, the A-League at the time, which for commercially we wouldn't want. But then you also think about how the AFF Cup, and you're a pretty avid viewer of it yourself, I imagine, Jack. When you look at how the AFF Cup tournament is actually done, each team gets their host city, and the rounds that are played are not hosted in one city. It's like, okay, here's your game against Singapore, fly to Kelang. Here's your game against, Vietnam, you're going to Hanoi. Mm-hmm. In the most respectful way I can say it, people aren't like you and me, okay? So if, here's the big game at, the Melbourne kind of rectangular stadium, and we're playing freaking, Brunei. That's just not a commercially viable event to have on, and the FA would have no interest in having it on. So to the point that the format doesn't go our way, the AFF still think that the senior team would be too strong, the A-League would get ruined, and I haven't even touched on the big kahuna here. It's not in a FIFA window. Things just don't align. Things just do not align at all. And we're still very, very proud members of ASEAN, okay? ASEAN has helped our level of futsal. The futsal Roos made the World Cup in 2016, very competitive at the Asian the Asian
The
Cup as
futsal
well.
ruse.
The futsal Roos, yes, I just said that, and
That's
the
incredible.
women's futsal team are going to be one of the top seeds at the World Cup, despite not having a ranking because they've actually just formed. Again, we have the likes of Central Asia and ASEAN to thank for a lot of that. So,
Are they the
and
Matilda ruse?
the Matildas, they would be the futsal Matildas, or to say in Australian
Ah,
English, the futsal Tillies. We call them Tillies. Don't have time to
Tilly's.
get,
Okay, I like
yep,
that.
the colloquialism there. Don't have time to get into it. And I think I just lost my train of thought as well. But the 17s, the U17s are current champions of ASEAN, and they will be going into the Asian Cup in April, which I assume you will be covering on Deadball TV because I know I'll be watching, Jack. Yeah,
I will
they'll
do
go in
my
as
best.
ASEAN.
There's too many tournaments. Way too
They'll
many
go
tournaments,
in
man.
to that as like a big favorite to actually be champions of Asia as the champions of ASEAN. So again, it's just a huge stepping stone for those boys in that team. And the 20s now, as well. I think the 20s didn't even win the ASEAN Cup, which looking at it at the Asian Cup now is a bit of a mystery because Thailand aren't going to make it out of their group. We're one of the strongest teams at the tournament. How did that 20s group not
Thailand
win in
beat you guys,
ASEAN?
right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So I mean, just a great introduction for specifically indoor and youth levels, but it can't really grow into anything else.
Last question. Do you think there's a future possibility where Australia being legally barred from competition is repealed?
Look, I think the format of the tournament would fundamentally have to change. I think either the scheduling of it in December and January, because even from a commercial perspective, right? If you're talking about we're going to this tournament, who wants to buy TV rights for it, or we're going to have games in Australia for it, think about the fact that that's in the middle of the Western kind of Christmas and New Year's period as well. It just doesn't work. So I don't commercially see a way that the FA would ever be interested in it, to be honest. But the whole A League 11 thing could work if they play the tournament at a different time of year within a FIFA window.
Yeah, or maybe at U23s. Is that a possibility? Like,
yeah, but I think again that's also like when you look at how U23 setups work, they play their Asian Cup every 2 years, and then they really gear towards the Olympics. They really gear on the Olympics, and that's it. If we're going to play like an ASEAN Cup, like the second or first year of that 4-year cycle, I don't know what value the FA would be looking at for that. But yeah.
yeah.